Okay, hi everybody. This is Josh Byerly here inside Mission Control Houston. I am sitting here with Doug Wheelock, an astronaut. He flew back on STS-120, which was Space Shuttle Discovery, back in 2007. Performed a series of spacewalks, and then he also became commander of the International Space Station back in 2010 as part of Expedition 25. So he's going to be happy to take your questions. He's the smarter of the two of us, so he'll probably be answering most of them. So if you guys want to go ahead and get it kicked off, we'll be happy to talk with you.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Hello to everybody there in Ackworth, Georgia. I kind of missed that part of the country. I went to school, did my graduate work at Georgia Tech, so spent a little bit of time there in Atlanta area. So it's good to be talking to you today.
Thank you. Everyone say thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Describe your spacewalk experience during the emergency shutdown of the ISS's pulley system. Were you afraid?
That's a great question. What is your name?
My name is Caitlin.
Caitlin, that's a great question, Caitlin. I actually get that question a lot from kids because we're all I'm a kid at heart as well myself, but you do have some fears when you're getting ready to do something like this because it wasn't something that we had trained for, and so we had trained the skills that we needed to take outside to change out this pump module that you were referring to. And we had worked together as a team before, but we were facing something that was a little bit unknown for us that we hadn't had a chance to practice. So I wouldn't call it fear. I would say that you manage that to where you have to pull together as a team because everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, much like you do in school when you're on a team in school or a sports team or something like that. When you're facing an objective that's impossible to overcome by yourself. You have to pull together as a team, and so I think that I call it heightened senses, heightened sensitivity to what was going on, and I was certainly aware that what we were doing was had some dangers out there, and so we managed those by talking about them and discussing how we're going to overcome those things. So. I was a little bit afraid, I have to tell you that, but when I looked at our team and the team we'd put together here in Mission Control, I knew that we were in capable hands with very, very smart people that knew this equipment. And so it helped us overcome our fears as a team and pull together and really turn it into something that was a wonderful experience.
Very good. Go ahead, Ted. No, you don't know. Okay.
Are there emergency escape vehicles for the astronauts?
Yes, there are emergency escape vehicles. We call them lifeboats sometimes on the space station, but we do have enough seats, return seats, to be able to evacuate the space station if we needed to. Fortunately, we haven't had to do that over the past 10 years we've been, or 10 or 12 years we've been on the space station. We have Soyuz vehicles right now that are used as our lifeboats, and so there are 6 crew members on board the space station, and each Soyuz vehicle, Soyuz capsule, it's a Russian-designed spaceship. Each of those Soyuz capsules has 3 seats, and so I think you can maybe see that on your screen. So there is enough room for everybody to have a seat and a ride home if there's an emergency on the space station.
My name is Gwendolyn, and how do you feel about commercial airlines, space stations and the SpaceX Dragon?
I think the SpaceX Dragon is awesome. And I think it's really, really exciting because we're beginning to see like an increased interest and a resurgence in the commercial area of space, and so NASA's pretty good at pushing the boundaries and going to the next greatest thing, and we're planning that. We're planning to go out beyond the space station now, and so now with getting people and cargo back and forth from the space station, we're going to rely more and more on these commercial vehicles, which I think is wonderful. And of course, you may have been watching NASA TV or the news, even with the SpaceX Dragon that's now attached to the space station. And I think you can see a picture of it there. And I think it's very, very exciting because we're beginning to see increased interest in the commercial area of space and space transports supplying the space station, and eventually transport of humans back and forth to the space station. I think it's very exciting, and I think you're going to see it's a really great, very exciting time for you kids that are in school now, because I think you're going to be seeing an increased interest in both your the curriculum that you see in school, and also a better and tighter connection between our commercial companies and our education department as well. So you may see some additional things coming into the schools and from the commercial base as well. So I think it's very exciting.
What is the American Astronautical Society flight achievement, and what did you do to deserve it?
Oh, that is an award. You probably saw it on my bio, but it was an award. That's a society that focuses on space and space exploration and travel and plans for going different places and what it would take to get there. And back in 2007, we had I was on board the station. I flew up on the Space Shuttle Discovery, and we had a torn solar array. We tried to deploy the solar array that we moved from one part of the station to another. And when we went to deploy it, it tore much like a piece of paper almost, and we were worried that it was going to tear completely in half. And so rather than continue the deploy process, we stopped it, and we built actually like stitches. Some of you there in the room may have had stitches before in your skin. You just kind of sew something up, or sewing up a piece of material. We made stitches inside of we took whatever material we could find, and our mission control team helped us locate those things on board the space station. We made these stitches, and we went outside and we sewed up the solar array. And so so when we got back, it was a pretty daring feat, and of course for us on board the space station, we just did like we were told, and we had the really, really smart and very, very creative people here on the ground that came up with this solution, and so they helped us build these things, and we fixed that. And so when we got back to Earth, the Astronomical Society issued an award to our EVA team for the repair of this solar array. So thank you.
Are you going to be part of the Mars mission?
Well, I'll probably be too old, but what's exciting is, I think we're hoping to go to Mars, maybe 25 or 30 years, something like that. I'm hoping that we'll see. I'll probably be in a rocking chair with a glass of sweet tea or something somewhere, watching. But what's very exciting, I think, about usually astronauts when they're selected to fly in space, they're usually in their 30s, maybe it's like mid-30s or something like that. So what's very exciting is that the first people that we'll see on Mars are probably somewhere in our classrooms right now. Maybe somebody there in the classroom you're sitting in right now, maybe somebody in that very room will be the first person that we'll see on the surface of Mars. And that's very exciting to me, thinking that maybe 25 or 30 years in the future, that maybe right there where you're sitting, there's an astronaut in that room. And you'll be sitting here 30 years from now, and I'll be in my rocking chair and listening to you tell the story about what it was like to go to Mars.
That sounds good.
How have 178 days in outer space affect your body, your health?
Oh, that's a really good question. 178 days in space. There are some things that I was anticipating and I expected. You're a little bit, your vestibular system that kind of helps you balance while you're standing up was affected, and I was expecting that. I was expecting a little bit of little bit of queasiness in my stomach when I got back used to gravity, and I had a little bit of that, and I expected that. But there were some things that I didn't really expect. One, my vision changed a little bit. You may have talked in your classrooms about the long-term effects on vision for long-duration space flight, and it's an interesting phenomena that we're still trying to understand in the medical field. And essentially, the mechanism there is your fluid shifts in your body, and I had like increased pressure inside of my head, and when you have that increased pressure, it pushes on the back of your eyes and actually affects your optic nerve as well. And so I didn't really expect that, and so it's sort of a new avenue that we're looking at medically to fly long duration in space. Another thing that was really surprising, it was actually kind of funny, was when you're on the space station, everything is floating, and so you have very little reference for like speeds, like different kinds of speeds and things. So like when you're driving, or even when you're out walking or riding a bike or something like that, you have other people that are walking maybe the other direction, or people that are crossing. And of course, when we're driving, we have stoplights and stop signs and things, and you have vehicles that are coming the other way and going, and everybody's at a different speed. And so your brain gets used to everything floating. So when you come back after 6 months, it's really hard for your brain to kind of regain that ability to understand like closure rates and opening rates when you're driving. They don't let us drive for about 45 days, which is really, really good. So, but I remember even 60 days after I landed, when I first started to drive a vehicle, and my daughter was sitting beside me, and I saw a red light about maybe a quarter or half a mile up in front of me, and I quickly tapped the brakes, and she said, "Dad, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I got a red light." She goes, "But it's like a mile away, So, but on the space station, you're traveling so fast, and things are floating inside that it's hard to get that relative sense of speed, and so that was an interesting phenomena that happens to your body when you're in space.
Is that why you wear glasses? Because of the
Yes, actually, I wear these now. There's probably some people in the room that wear glasses. I wear these now. They help me read. But when I got back from space, the change in my vision, everything was just a little slightly out of focus. And so now I wear these. Do I look good in them? Yeah.
Yes.
So, thank you. Thank you. And fortunately, all the things that we do in space, you can do with glasses on. So it's not that difficult to adapt to. But it was hard for me to kind of refocus visually, and it took me about 1.5 years for my vision to come back to where it was stable. And it didn't come all the way back, but it did have some effects. And I actually was very happy that I was able to contribute to our medical folks here at NASA, and also across our nation and globally, to help us understand this phenomenon. So when we send like somebody sitting in that room that's going to go to Mars, first person to Mars, that may be a 3-year trip out into space and back, and to Mars. And so if we're seeing vision changes with only 6 months in space, maybe we really need to take a hard look at this. And so I feel like I've contributed a little bit to science. So
Thank you.
How does space travel affect the aging process?
how does it affect the aging process? Well, there is a fountain of youth out there. No, I'm just kidding. Well, interestingly enough, in some ways it makes you feel a little younger, because you don't have gravity now, so you sleep better, I think, because you don't have pressure points now. You don't. I very rarely get a sore back or a sore neck or something like that, because you're kind of floating. The sensation is like, if you've ever been in a swimming pool, like a nice warm swimming pool, and you just kind of close your eyes and just float, that feeling, that's what it feels like all day, every day in space. And so that process, I think, helps your body relax a little bit. So I don't think it makes you get any younger, but it certainly like reduces a little bit of the stresses normally that you'd face on your body. Now, there are some ways that actually sort of accelerate certain things in the aging process. And one of those things that we're really looking hard at is bone loss, bone demineralization and stuff like this, where it speeds up the process of breakdown of bone structure. And of course, we're trying to develop exercises and things like that we can do that will help us kind of stave off the loss of bone density and things like that. And so in those kind of processes, like bone loss, the aging process is sort of sped up a little bit artificially, but that helps us medically because we can actually use the astronaut that's experiencing bone loss, sort of like someone that has maybe like osteoporosis or something like that actually has bone loss here on Earth. We can actually use the astronauts in studies and science experiments to try to help us understand how that process takes place and how to treat people here on Earth as well. So it's all part of the science that we're gaining on board the station.
You do get a little bit taller, though.
Yes,
space.
you do. You do actually, because of that. We have gravity pulling us down to the ground. So when you're standing upright here on Earth, you're stuck. Your feet feel like you're probably sitting in chairs right now. So you think about it, and you're just kind of stuck to the bottom of your chair, and so your spine is compressed a little bit. So when you go to space and you remove gravity, your body kind of stretches out a little bit. And I actually grew about 1.5 inches when I was in space.
I'd take that.
Of course, yeah, but I wasn't able to keep that when I got back. When I got back, I after about 15 days, I shrunk down to my normal size. So.
Amazing.
Why did you choose Georgia Tech to study aerospace engineering?
Because I love Atlanta. Do we have any tech fans there in the room?
Tech fans, who's going to Tech?
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, the reason I chose Georgia Tech, at the period of time, Georgia Tech was a center of excellence for rotary wing technology in the aerospace field, and at the time I was an active duty Army pilot, and so the Army sent me there to study rotorcraft, or helicopters, and vertical lift technology. And so I don't know if you knew this, but Georgia Tech is a center of excellence for rotary wing technology and vertical lift technology. So a lot of my thoughts on making lunar landers or making spacecraft that can maneuver like a helicopter, or aircraft like a helicopter maneuvering, or some sort of hovercraft. Georgia Tech is a center of excellence for that. So that's why I chose Georgia Tech. And besides, they're the Ramblin' Wreck. There's probably some Georgia fans in the room that are not smiling right now.
Oh, a few. Yeah. Go ahead, Tori.
In your bio, it said that you got the Russian Medal of Merit. What did you do to get that?
Well, that was actually kind of a surprise. And when that medal was awarded to me, it was given to me by the Russian ambassador to the U.S., which was really cool. And so, but I participated when I launched to space in 2010. I launched on a Russian Soyuz rocket, and so I went to space and operated on this Russian spaceship, and then came home in that very same capsule. And so, and of course, in order to get a chance to do that, you go through a lot of training and a lot of integrated training and study with the Russians and with the Russian Space Agency, and also with their great engineers over there and everything. So it was sort of a medal that was given to those astronauts that had done work preparing to fly on the Soyuz vehicle and then completing a flight on the vehicle. So I studied and learned my Russian, which was hard for me, probably. I mean, that's probably the hardest thing that I had to do, is learn Russian. It was really difficult for me, but learning that system and flying on that vehicle, and that's the reason they gave me that medal, and I was very honored.
Excellent. Great. Go ahead.
Okay. How is it similar to live underwater compared to space?
Very, very similar underwater. You know, you probably have seen we do our spacewalk training underwater. We also have this extreme environments training where we are on the Aquarius habitat underwater, because you can take in underwater, you can sort of replicate what it feels like in space. Now, it's actually much easier to live and work in space and out on a spacewalk in space than it is in the pool. So if you could do it in the pool, you can most assuredly do it in space. And so we in the pool, we actually go down to the level where we're going to work in our big suits, and they get us neutrally buoyant, so it feels like you're floating. So they add weights or foam to your suit, and so they hold you out, and so you don't rise to the surface and you don't drop to the bottom. So they get you what's called neutrally buoyant, and that pool is actually in a place we call the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, which is right outside of Johnson Space Center here in Houston. And we do all of our spacewalk training there, and because it's a great analogy to floating around in space. And of course, in the pool, you still have gravity. So if you turn on in your suit, if you turn on your head in the pool, you can feel that. So it doesn't feel real comfortable. It feels like you're standing on your head, and so you still have that feeling in the pool. And you also have drag. So when you move your arm through the water, you can feel the drag of the water on your arms, and when you're trying to move your body and stuff. So, but when you get to space, all of that is gone, and so it's actually much easier to move around in space. So it's a great analogy that we use to train underwater to get ready for space.
Okay, go ahead, Will.
Does Curiosity's memory glitch affect your current data?
Well, I'm not privy to all that data, but I'm sure that a memory glitch probably did have a little bit of an impact on the data we were bringing down or gathering, and then also telemetrying back to Earth. But I believe that they've solved that issue now. I don't really have all the details on that, but what we usually do in our spaceships like this, and I believe was the case with Curiosity, that we build in some redundancy, so we can actually like swap to a different channel or a different string, and then kind of try to fix or repair the string that we had a glitch on. And so I really don't know the details on that, but the last I heard, we've gotten back full functionality of our data. So
yeah, one of the cool things about working at NASA is that there's different centers across the United States. So there's some in Alabama, some in Mississippi, and out in California there's a place called the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that's sort of the home of all the Mars rovers, including Curiosity. So there's a room, sort of a mini mission control out there. That's where they actually drive and get the data down from Curiosity. So those guys are out there watching that 24 hours a day out there.
What foreign languages do you speak?
Well, I did speak pretty good Russian, but it's kind of when you don't practice it. I don't know how many there in the room speak a foreign language, but if you don't keep practiced at it, it's difficult to keep that cutting edge. So I would say right now I speak English and I speak a little bit of Russian, enough to get by. I think I could survive. On the street, and if you drop me off on the street in Moscow, I could probably survive. But people would probably be laughing at me, but they would understand what I was trying to say. So.
And Clark Creek STEM Academy, we've got about time for one more question.
Okay.
Do you believe in extraterrestrials extending on a different planet?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I'm glad it's the last question. No, I'm just kidding. I've never, first of all, let me say that I've never seen an extraterrestrial. I've never seen an alien or anything like that, and I've never seen a UFO. But I do believe that that there are most likely other life forms out there. It might not be something that we understand visually as a life form. So I don't think I believe in extraterrestrials like in E.T. the movie and stuff like that, you know. But I do find very, very fascinating these, you know, Earth-like planets that we're finding with Hubble and with the other telescopes that, you know, given the right circumstances, that we could find like organics in what we would refer to as soil or something like that, and maybe even a partial atmosphere where organic life or you know, single cell kind of life, or maybe even something a little more advanced could exist, or plants or something like that. So, you know, I'm not a planetary scientist, and I'm not a chemist, but I have to believe that something like that probably is occurring somewhere in our universe. So, but I don't think it looks like us. I personally don't think that these life forms would look like us. But
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Great questions, and thanks for spending time with us today here at Johnson Space Center in Houston.
We'll see you guys later on.